Hi, everybody. This is Katie Joe, and we're going to talk a little bit about the use of hallucinogens in shamanism. There's a little bit of a misconception in modern New Age practices and understanding of shamanism. And in fact, as I've met with many leaders, indigenous leaders, it's become quite a concern. So let's just talk about this a little bit. Originally, shamans were meant to be a spiritual guide for their community. Now, I recently went to a training with a gentleman who's kind of a well-known name in shamanism for over 30 years. And he is an advocate of using hallucinogens and ceremonies and journeys, which is what you hear about. And if you think of the word shaman, a lot of people just immediately assume that you're doing ayahuasca or another form of DMT or frog poison or peyote, or the list goes on and on and on and on. So I want to kind of weed this out for you a little bit. So originally, the shamanic path was one of severe discipline. This is where they lived daily in ceremony and practice and meditation and mastering the mind. And they would go through these initiations, if you will, and these feats of strength to master the mind over the body. And this process was done usually year long, like 365 days a year, with special attention to equinoxes and solstices, as you would go through this rigorous lifestyle in order to make sure that if you were to use a hallucinogenic substance, that your mind would be strong enough to not be carried away by the substance, or they believed the spirits, and it would withstand the risk that you were taking. And it was this risk that you were taking as a shaman to serve your community. So often, and what was most common, is you would have people who were doing like swimming in cold water, or going through, walking on fire, or doing like 40-day fasts. You maybe have heard of things like that, all of these things, so that they could strengthen themselves, so that when they were to if they were to partake of the substances, that they could do all of that they needed to do without the substance. So when they could do that, or when they did the substance, they could decode the messages of spirit with some discernment, and it could be trusted. Now, why does that matter right now today? And also why I don't teach and use substances in any of my shamanic training is because the Western way, of course, the Western man wants to take, and not man, but the society, we kind of are like fast food society, if you will. We want the quick solve it all kind of a thing. So whereas for most of these traditions, these indigenous traditions, they would be going for all of these, sometimes a year to 2 years in preparing to use the substance, or only use that once a year to twice a year, or like at an eclipse or something like that was going on. What is kind of occurring in New Age society is it's being used as a way to reach those spiritual realms, versus being able to reach those spiritual realms without it, and then at significant times to use that. So it's kind of this weird thing. But the gentleman who I studied under just most recently, who again has this 30-year history, he said he no longer teaches that, and he no longer brings that to America anymore, because the perception and the way that it's being used is so different. Whereas originally you would be going a year through training, and then you would do that once a year. So I wanted to just touch base on that, because you don't need to do any type of hallucinogens. You don't need to do any types of substances to do shamanism. There are anything you can do on a substance, you can actually do without the substance. And if you are looking for a way to do substance-free shamanism, that is what I teach. And while I mean this in no way of judgment, it's simply information for people to know. And I wish you the very best. You can find me at Katie Joe Drum on Instagram, or on TikTok, I think, or on my website's Katie Joe Drum. So I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day.